It's the run to the line. Workman's off the track. He's got all 4 Michelin's over the white line. He's defending.
Everything interesting happens off the racing.
Welcome to Off the Racing Line. I am joined today with sitting in for my co-host, Mike Moore, is none other than David Tuaty. David, thank you for joining us.
My pleasure being here.
And also joining us today is Brian Jacobs, a motorsports veteran who's, you got to wait till I do the introduction. I know you're excited.
I want to go into my David Tuaty and go, what's up, people?
I'll give you a chance in a second. So let's do the introduction. We're joined today by Brian Jacobs, a motorsports veteran who's been involved in the sport since high school. From his days as a BMW enthusiast to becoming a top-level Porsche instructor, Brian has seen it all. He's also the president of the PCA Gulfstream chapter and has worked alongside legends like Shane Lewis, Guy Cosmo, and Jim Pace. Brian, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
This is your opportunity to say, what's up, people? You guys recognize the shirt. I brought this from like deep in my closet because I think this is the trackweekend.com is really the way that I met you, David, and I also met you, Brian. Like,
I think we met PCA before Track Weekend started.
You're probably right. Yeah.
Because I think you were still student level.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you were solo yet. And Track Weekend, obviously, you were solo at that point.
Yeah, you're probably right. Let's get started with you, Brian. Let's talk about your journey. You've been in motorsports for decades. How did it all begin for you, and what sparked your interest in the sport?
Oh, funny enough, when I moved up here as a teenager, I moved up here from the Keys. I could not care less about cars. And met a kid in high school who was just an absolute BMW junkie. And that sparked my interest. He was, my best friend, and that got me into cars. And honestly, I never looked back. Got my first car, $1,800 for a 1976 2002 with a blown head gasket, and I worked at an auto shop over the summer. They helped me get the car running, and I would hang out at the racetrack while the owners of the shop were racing or just doing their private track days. And yeah, I never looked back. It's been my passion, and I've met so many wonderful people through the organization. Lifelong friends now through track events. I never expected that.
Sure.
I think all of us started with BMWs.
That's something that I thought about on my way here, and I thought about bringing that up, that something along the lines that BMW owners always, maybe not always, but I would say a large majority of them probably want to own a Porsche down the road. And Porsche owners typically also own BMWs.
Yes.
So the guy with a GT3 probably has a BMW as a daily.
Probably drives a 5 Series daily. And
right.
It's been over the years that BMW street cars make really good track cars. So it's a very easy transition into racing, into motorsports, into autocross. Because if you buy a car that's already capable, you don't have to do a lot to go have a great time at an autocross. They're cars that handle well, brake well. You don't have to do a lot of modifications, if any, to go have fun. So it leads to a lot of people in BMWs going to the track for the first time. And I think the three of us started with all BMWs. We still have BMWs at the shop.
Yeah.
I started off doing a BMW safety school. That was, just like, I know you put on the safety schools, similar to the tire rack, school. And that was my first time behind the wheel. And then autocross, HPDE, autocross and HPDE. It turns into every weekend you're somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Brian, you've had the privilege of working with some true legends like Shane Lewis, Guy Cosmo, and Jim Pace. What was it like working alongside them, and how did it influence your approach to racing or instructing?
Oh, interestingly enough, And I mean, all of those guys in the racing world are absolute legends. And I thought I wanted to go that way of racing. It really made me realize my love is in the DE world and in the track day world. And racing is not where my heart is. And it took me going there to figure out that's not where I wanted to be.
Right.
But it really was a wonderful experience. As I was starting off with my driver development program, Shane Lewis was there encouraging me that, you've got to do this, you got to do that. And, having Guy Cosmo there, typically what I would do is I would have Guy Cosmo, because, listen, while I say, I'm a racer, the fact is these guys are faster than I am. They're more consistent than I am. I would have them come out, lay down data laps, and then I would spend the second day overlaying with the clients, and it would really get us a lot further along, and it was also less expensive than having a pro with us for 3 days. Oh, that was really kind of how I did that with, and Jim Pace, that was, that guy, I don't know if you've ever had the pleasure of working with Jim, but
I did not. Unfortunately, I did not. But I follow his videos, and I want to be him.
Just such a class act. Such a class act.
Who would you say of the three had the biggest impact on you?
Shane. Just because when I was flip-flopping on, well, do I just help these people out or do I make this a whole nother career? Shane was pushing me to make it a career move. And that was encouragement. A lot of other people would just say, get out of my way, let me have these people full time. And Shane, he never tried stealing my clients. And as a pro coach, how many people are trying to steal your clients every time you show up to the track?
It's constantly.
Yeah,
and I had the same experience with Shane and with Guy. Guy actually now brings customers to TLM, our shop, and he coaches his guys through us because we provide the back office.
Right.
He just does the coaching. We do all the maintenance, support, transport, everything. And Shane actually called me when he was the lead instructor at PBIR, former Moroso. He would call me constantly to do the BMW programs and the McLaren programs and whatever programs they had. We did a lot for that. So, we're in the community. Shane hasn't been around. He's been racing in Europe for a while, but Guy constantly comes, and I'm very good friends. Guy Cosmo and I won the inaugural Iowa Speedway IMSA race. Nobody's ever going to be able to take that away from us. And every time we get together, we celebrate it properly again.
Yeah.
See, the thing somebody can never take away from you. I beat Shane Lewis in a mock race.
There you go.
It was his first time driving a Spec Miata. I had plenty of time in a Spec Miata. And the race we did 10 minutes later, he annihilated me. But that first one, I had him the first one. Once he got up to speed, right? Shane's just a master. Yeah. Give him a couple minutes and anything, and he's fast.
Yeah, those guys are good.
Yeah.
So the way that we arrived here today with this episode with Brian was actually very interesting. After the first episode of the podcast aired, Brian, a few days later, called me up. And what did you tell me? You said that podcast, that episode motivated you to what?
It's motivating me to come back to the track. I have an absolute love affair of sitting in the right seat of the cars. I love giving back to the community that really, I don't think I would have, my career in, real estate and finance without all of the friends that I've met at the track that have, really been my number one promoters for years. So when I've got a friend like yourself now running an event that they're trying to promote, I want to do what I can to promote my friends' events.
And I appreciate that. I don't know where you're going with this.
Yeah.
So what he said, this is word by word. He said the episode motivated me to go check out the new FARA, right? Because since David, you, Jose, and Todd took it over, it is the new FARA. We don't run things the way that
100%.
that they used to. And so when you told me that, Brian, I said, come on out. I invited you to our event at Homestead, which was the one last weekend. Brian shows up on Sunday. He says, I'm here. Put me to work. And so we put you in the right seat where you wanted to be. You wanted to be instructing. You wanted to get the whole feel for the new FARA. I know that you had experience with the old FARA years and years ago. Can you tell us a little bit about the difference that you witnessed between the old FARA and the new FARA?
Well, first, let's say that the old FARA, there would be no new FARA without the old FARA.
Of course.
And what the old FARA did was they were amazing at putting on an event. I don't think they were amazing at putting on a safe event, but they were amazing at putting on a spectacle, unlike anybody else in the community. Is that a fair statement?
Yes.
I mean,
I was part of it.
Yeah, I mean, I show up, I'm doing events. They've got 2 cajachinas on the side of the track with whole pigs.
Nice.
I mean, this is amazing. I mean, there's DJs, everything. But, to that point, it was a bit on track. It was a bit of the wild, wild west. And I mean, I've got some fun stories of me being a hooligan at FARA events where I know I could not do that at a Porsche Club event. I would be sent packing. And I said, you're running these events. I really want them to do well. I mean, we've been friends for many years now. Right. But what I will not do is I will not go somewhere and say, hey, you should go check out Carlos and David's event if I haven't been there and I can't put my stamp of approval on it and say this is a safe event.
Sure. That's why we invited you.
It really was a great event. Now, I don't care whose event it is, whether it's Chin, whether it's PCA, FARA, NASA, there's always going to be some people that are out of control. And, we had that at this event. But the difference between new FARA and old FARA is new FARA is immediately upon somebody doing something wrong, you guys are there, you're talking to them. And it's either a learning experience or a packing experience.
Well, you know what, Brian? A lot of that has to do when Todd, Jose, and I bought FARA, that was one of the main things is we like the racing, let's make it better.
Right.
And Gerardo Bonilla was instrumental in getting the racers under control very easily because he just put a little structure into the drivers' meeting. Video is reviewed after any and all incidents. There is an adjudication. Somebody's going to be at fault. Somebody's going to get... And because Gerardo basically runs all kinds of teaching academies, for him is always a teaching opportunity.
Right.
So people get better. By the same token, there's a reason why Carlos is in charge of the academy. Because he is extremely anal about how things get done. But that's what we want. They know not to mess around. And plenty of people, it took a while to understand how to work with each other.
Right.
And I told Carlos, I go, this is yours. You run the academy. You run the Super Lap series. And of course, a lot of people, because it is South Florida, will go to Carlos and says, David Tuaty told me I can. And I told Carlos, I have never told anybody anything other than go talk to Carlos. He will make a decision. He now believes me. After 2 years or 3, he now believes me.
It took a while.
It took a while because everybody likes to name drop and say,
Yes.
Jose told me, Todd told me,
Right.
David told me. And Carlos now responds with, no. All they told you was to come to talk to me. Now, Carlos is extremely reasonable, and we are very, very, very customer-oriented with safety in mind, 100%. And I have no problem at an event when Carlos tells me, no, David. We'll discuss it later. But at the event, if he says no, it's no. Same thing with Gerardo. So that is a huge reason why the new FARA is the way it is.
Absolutely. But you guys still continue that same, shall we say, party atmosphere.
100%. There's always a party at the track.
That party atmosphere is still there.
Yes.
But again,
But you
the
know why?
safety level is amplified.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Do you know why the party level's still there?
I would imagine it can't go anywhere because of the people that are running it. It's in your heart. That's
we
who
want
you guys
to have
are.
fun, and we want to celebrate everybody's accomplishment that weekend as if they just won the Monaco Grand Prix. Because we are all, for those 15 minutes, are the race car driver.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you're driving a Miata, a little BMW, a Porsche Cup car, a prototype, a Hyundai. It doesn't matter. If you win the race, you want to be celebrated. So we have the confetti and the pss, pss, pss on the podium and the food trucks and the music, and people love that. That's why we do it.
Yeah.
I'm going to stop you because you'd mentioned the food trucks. I'm guessing a Brazilian.
Yes.
Oh my
Amazing.
God, that steak
Amazing.
sandwich.
That's some good churrasco.
Oh, my goodness.
I had the picanha.
Yes.
Amazing, absolutely amazing. I'm going to drive to a FARA event just for the food truck.
Come to FARA for the meat.
Brian, you mentioned your love for instructing.
Yes.
What has been your approach to instructing for staying alive, instructing all these years, and has that changed over the years?
It has not changed. I've always been committed to one. I come from the restaurant business. I am, I went to school to be a chef. I'm all about creating these experiences. I'm all about nurturing people. And that's always been at my core. But when I took up the attitude that anything that goes wrong in that car is my responsibility. So I am the captain of that ship. You just happen to be driving it right now.
Right.
I'm the one in control. And when I get to a point where somebody is not doing what I'm telling them to do, we have to stop immediately. We have to come into the pits. We have to have a conversation, and you need to understand. But if I don't understand what you're trying to get out of that event, that's on me. If all you want is to know how fast your car will go in the straights and you don't care about the corners, well, that's fine. We can work on that. But you're going to brake when I tell you to brake. And do me a favor, if I'm going to let you do this, let's at least try to hit some corners properly. And then maybe I can win them over. But if you tell somebody you're going to hit every apex I tell you to, you're going to do this, it's not going to be a fun time for anybody.
Sure.
So let's go ahead and let them have that experience that they want and trick them into doing what we want as well. Maybe we're going to have somebody that's there for more than the day and they fall in love with the corners. Because there's 4 straightaways at Homestead, but there's 12 corners.
Right.
There's a whole lot more we can do than just drive down a straight line.
I think there's an interesting point here, and I'm using myself as maybe as a sounding board. I thought that I would always love instructing. When I was doing instructing, I thought I would just do this forever, or as long as God allowed me to do this. And then I went to the instructor school, and I became a mentor, and I really enjoyed that. And then I started doing time trials with NASA, and then the Super Lap series. And little by little, as I started doing other things, I started falling out of love of instructing, which was a little depressing for me because I thought I loved it so much. And the last couple times that I did it, which it was probably a year ago, I was kind of bored, and I was not happy with the way that my student was progressing. And so where I'm going with this is when do you know that maybe it's time to not get in the right seat anymore?
Well, I'll answer that with yet another long-winded story. The same way I figured out how I didn't want to race anymore. My family has a house in St. Augustine, which is just 35, 40 minutes from Daytona Speedway. I was doing a race there, and coming through NASCAR 3-4, sun's starting to come down. I wonder what my family is doing for dinner tonight. Come back through NASCAR 3-4, see the sunset coming down. Oh, my wife's probably on the dock right now watching the sunset with a glass of wine.
Your mind wasn't there.
My mind's not there. I need to get out of this car. This is not for me. I'm never sitting in the right seat of a car instructing going, I don't want to be here.
Which is
This
what
isn't
happened
for
with
me.
me. That's what happened with me.
So, but the good news is you found other things that you love that's still motorsports related that provide me an opportunity to sit in the right seat, or provide other people the opportunity to sit in the right seat. You told me to bring a car down, drive this weekend, and, whatever I wanted to do. I did not bring a car to the track. I drove my daily driver down, and I instructed. I don't miss racing at all. Driving, I enjoy driving, but racing, not so much. The trackside party, the dinner after everybody's got a drink, the track is cold. That's some of the best times of the entire weekend.
Sure. And just being around people that you enjoy being around.
One of those things is the most important thing, and I think I touched on that when I was a guest here, is that you want to be with people you want to be around.
Right.
And even in business. I mean, I'll tell you that having Jose and Todd as business partners in overall FARA has been fantastic. We have a weekly Zoom meeting that includes Carlos, Carolina, and Trish, and we all bounce ideas off each other. And you think like a weekly meeting, really, but we spend an hour on Zoom, and it's about 45 minutes of work and another 15, maybe more, of fooling around. But I want to talk to Carlos. I want to talk to Todd. Todd and I have this weird relationship. Every time we get on the phone, we could start a conversation with, we're a little bit down about something, and we finish the conversation in such a high note, we're going to buy another race series. Like, we hype each other out so much. And that's Todd and I every single time. So I know that Todd's called me a couple times just so I can hype him up. And then he goes, I needed that. I'm going to go through the day.
Nice.
And we talk about what we're going to do next. And,
It's not work.
Have ideas. It's not work. It's not work. I mean,
I actually look forward to those,
Yes.
our weekly calls.
Yes.
And sometimes they don't feel like they're enough. Sometimes I feel like we need a follow-up,
more,
like on a
yes.
Thursday. But to finish up our point, or my point with instructing and more or less falling out of it, I think there was several indicators and things that kind of pushed me in that direction to start falling out of it. I think one of maybe the catalyst to that was when I was instructing a young man. He must have been 20 years old. He was driving his dad's GT3 RS, and we're going down the back straight at Sebring at 150 plus.
Yeah.
And it was at that moment that I started questioning a lot of life decisions at that moment. There's a 20-year-old driving. We're doing 150, heading into turn 17. And I'm like, well, is this really wise? Is this really where you want to be right now, Carlos? And so I think that was the catalyst. And a lot of things started happening afterwards that made me realize maybe instructing is just not for you anymore. And like you said, you focus on other things that I do love, like running an event.
Absolutely.
A lot of that instructing, and it's funny because I went down the same path. I unfortunately had a student of mine crash on the last day of a chin event, last session of the last day on a
That's when it
two-day
happens.
weekend. They crashed. I broke my thumb. I passed out. It was the funniest thing.
From the pain?
From the pain. I can't take pain. I have this little tiny cut. I passed out. It is what it is. I'm a sensitive man. And I couldn't deal with it. And I I kind of thought, you know what, being in a car at that speed, in a 996 GT3 RS street car, it's pretty daunting, because you go through turn one over, 90 to 100 miles an hour, cars bouncing, and yeah, it grips, but you on the passenger seat, I'm like, oh my God, please don't go off. And I had enough that weekend of please don't go off, please don't go off, please don't go off, that I'm like, I don't need to be in that car anymore.
Right.
And I also realized, thanks to actually Pippa Mann, who's coached for me for many years, she was extremely successful at coaching guys and girls with video and data, because a lot of her experience was through Indy cars and open wheelers. There's no right seat. So I got a lot of that. She taught me how to look and push people through data and through video. You don't have to be in the seat. So that's what I do now, because I will not get in the right seat.
I think it's also I don't want to say a waste of your time. I think you sitting right seat is probably not the right format for where you're at. I think, and this goes back to why do HPDE? HPDE, you've got an instructor that's there to sit with you. The instructor that's there is not going to be a pro-level instructor. It's somebody that's a club-level instructor, and their job is to build a foundation. They are not going to have you up to speed, ready to go race in a pro series. But if you listen and you pay attention and you don't get in a rush to go solo, continue to have these instructors with you, learn from each of the different instructors, because I know I teach a different line at turn 12 than the majority of the instructors do. I teach more of a race line at 12 at Homestead, where a majority of the instructors will teach that come to the left and go back right, go back left, track out. Learn from everybody else. When you are solo, that's when you figure out, man, Brian's line here was great. Carlos's line here was great. I'm going to make all of these mine. And then that's when you get somebody like David, somebody like Mike, to start analyzing your data and going, you know what? I'm overlaying the data with this, and we're getting serious now. DE is fun and educational. It's not serious.
Right.
I mean, the repercussions of not taking it seriously are very serious.
Correct.
But it's not a high-stress environment. We're having fun. We're doing a little dance. But I think that's an epic waste of your time to be dealing with anything at an HPDE level. People get solo. Now it's time to really sit there, get the data involved. What I'm doing, sitting in the right seat, there really should not be a conversation about data. Right. What you are doing, right or wrong at this point, should be so obvious that we don't need data.
Right, and that's one of the things that I stress to people. I'm not cheap. So I do tell everybody that comes to me for the first time, Carlos will put you with an extremely well-qualified instructor to get you to a certain point. And once you are serious about going racing, give me a call. And those people that give me a call, that is a completely different approach to the coaching. Now we're dissecting 1/10 of a second at every turn and stuff like that. I don't want to do the 7-8 seconds improvement. Back
16ths of a second.
Back when track weekend started, which is the whole reason, by the way, Carlos, the whole reason why TLM is successful is a big thanks to you.
Maybe where you got its start, but you guys did a tremendous amount of work to get that thing going.
It was you had the platform to be able to make it easier. For those that don't know, when I first started putting events together, we did an autocross school.
We did.
And I hired Gene Kinzer and Greg Hahn. They came down from South Florida, from Orlando area, Daytona area. And they taught our first autocross school. And that autocross school was all advertised through the trackweekend.com website. And Carlos and I created a friendship and a partnership. And that was fantastic. We used that platform a lot to be able to get the people to the track. And so yes, that's instrumental in him being a part of YTLM is where it's at. But going down to the race coaching, when I first coached Carlos was one of my first ever students, and I was advertising at that point, if I don't make you faster, you don't have to pay me. And Carlos was the first one, and it was common to get 3, 4, 5 seconds, which is humongous. But these are track day guys that are just starting, so it was fairly easy.
Yeah, it was a safe bet.
And I had Juan Gomez was my second, and he came quietly without anybody seeing. He goes, "Don't tell Carlos, but I want to hire you when he's not around. I think Carlos is not coming to the next event, so I want you to come with me."
I remember that one, yeah.
So all of Carlos's friends hired me, and that snowballed. So
yeah, because there was that friendly competition,
Yes.
like Carlos got a little faster, and we can't have that. So let's hire David. David was obviously the missing component there. As far as understanding the data, it's interesting. I just a couple of days ago, I was looking at the data through the Garmin, the Catalyst, and I couldn't make heads or tails. I was going like 3.5 seconds slower at Homestead than I had in the past. And you can attribute
94 degrees,
possibly a second, because of the weather. But then my barometer is always Mike Moore. Him and I are like within a tenth of each other, and he was nailing down a 37. So he's doing a 37. Why can't I? So I took a screenshot of not the Catalyst, but the application on the phone from the Catalyst, and I sent it to Todd. And now this is not interactive. This is just a flat digital, squigglies. I sent it to him like, I don't know if you can make any heads or tails of this, but can you tell me if you do, like what I'm doing wrong? And he calls me back like 10 minutes later. He goes, "It's your braking everywhere. You're slowing down way too much." And I'm like, how can you possibly see that from these squigglies? And they were all like scrunched up. The whole lap was all fitting in a space of about that big. And he was able to pick it out really, really quickly. You're over braking and you're braking too early, and it's costing you, a tenth, 2 tenths here, and you add that up, and you're 3 seconds slower.
One of the things that I noticed back when I had Shane and Guy, and they're laying down the data laps for us, the main difference between a pro driver and a very good club level driver is the transition time. The amount of time you spend, coasting, braking, and between the brake and the accelerator. I mean, that's a fair statement, right?
Absolutely.
It's a 16th here, it's a 16th there, but Sebring's got 17 turns. I mean, that's a whole lot of time. Because you got 4 sections of, your brake in, your turn in, your accelerate. I mean, you get 4 different things you're doing every corner. If there's a fraction of a second between each of them, I mean, there's 8 seconds.
Yeah. I want to move on to one of the segments that I love and I am often disappointed in, and that is Instructor War Stories. I figured that with your, amount of experience instructing, I'm assuming that you're going to have at least 1 or 2 good instructor war stories that you can still remember.
Well, the reputation that I had as an instructor was whoever the worst student is that no one else can handle, put them in with Brian. Brian will get them back on track, or Brian will make them leave. And it's always, I'm not even going to point out what car it always is, but their drivers always wear New Balance.
Got it. We all know what that is.
But yeah, I mean, it goes back to what I was saying. It made me rethink how I go about things, which is if there's a problem in the car, it's my fault.
Right.
But
do you have a particular story that comes to mind?
Yeah, there's one guy that, he was getting pretty good. And he got passed by an M3. And now he is just red mist.
Oh,
No matter what I say, he can't hear me.
yeah.
I mean, I'm sure you've had these moments. You're talking to this person, they are so focused on the bumper of that car, they can't hear anything you say.
Sure.
I actually had to physically smack him on his helmet and get him out of that red mist. And he had some choice words for me. But I'm like, I've been talking to you for 3 corners. He's like, I heard you. I'm like, you've never acknowledged a word I said.
Right.
Like, let's come into the pits, let's have a talk. Let's do a cool down lap now. There's no reason to talk about this in the car.
Right.
And it's a very long drive back to the pits from Sebring.
Oh, yeah.
If this conversation is starting at turn 5.
Yeah. It's an awkward moment.
Yeah, but I mean, there's been some of those conversations. I mean, for the most part, I think I do a good enough job in my, pre-track, pre-driving interview to let people know this is what's going to happen if you don't follow the rules. But I don't think this was a case of him not following the rules. This was a case of just pure red mist, and he was not in control of himself.
Right.
He was deep in that
He
zone.
was chasing the rabbit.
Yeah, which is just dangerous, especially if you're doing it. You're not even solo at this point.
Yeah,
There's still a whole
yeah.
lot to learn. But I mean, that's probably the one that sticks out to where it's a reminder that I am responsible for getting myself safe back to the pits, regardless of how much the person in the left seat wants to kill both of us.
Of course. David, you shared with us last time that you were here one of the stories at Sebring when the guy driving wasn't sure where to turn, left or right at Bishop's.
Yeah, at Bishop's.
I'm assuming you probably have a few more.
That's a fast place to not know where you were going.
Absolutely. That was scary. Oh, I can probably fill a podcast with stories. Right now I'm here thinking, and like 4 came to mind.
Let's hear one.
There was one that sticks to my mind because he was the only person that turned me green. Only. I never got queasy. Very, very comfortable in the right seat for many, many, many years. And this guy, I should have known. He came to the shop and he wanted more power. And he already had a converted 996 twin turbo into a track car with all the Porsche Cup cars you can possibly think of. And he wanted more power. This car had over 800 horsepower. It was a monster. It was beautiful. And I don't know why I said yes to the coaching gig. We were at an event, Chin, PDG, I don't pick your event. I don't know what it was. And we go out of pit lane, and he floors it to turn 2, and then stops. Somehow, somewhere, makes the turn and floors it to turn 3 and stops. And the whole time, my brain is going like this: boof, boof, boof. Floors it to 4, stops. Floors it to 5, stop. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Like, pick a lane. At this moment, forget the racing line.
Yeah.
Pick a lane, any lane, please. So we do 2 laps, and I tell him, stop. What are you doing? He goes, oh, this is what they told me by all the instructor. And I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Did you not have a and he was already tracking for many years. I go, you don't have a concept of, wide in, apex, track out, like use the flow.
Yeah.
No, he was just gunning it, turning the car, gunning it, and the whole time the car's going, bah, boof, bah, boof. My brain was hitting my skull with every throttle application. It was horrible. I spent 5 laps with him. I come out of the car, and I find a bucket. And I'm sitting over, oh my God, this is not going to be good.
It was that bad.
It was horrible. We took a half-hour break while the next session went.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm driving. He was hesitant. I'm like, dude, you have no idea. And I just take his car, and I think I'm like 3,000 RPM early. You did not need all that power.
Right.
I'm like 15 seconds quicker than he is around the track.
Never left third gear.
Nobody threw up.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's how you do it. We get back in his car. He does like 4 laps, and I tell him, stop. Stopped. I disappeared to the bathroom, blue chunks.
So he went at it again.
Oh no, he at that time I fired him. I told him, dude, I cannot do this. This is not gonna happen.
You fired the guy who hired you.
Yes. That was the best fire I ever did in my life.
I'm not doing this.
It was horrible. I felt sick the entire day. It was, again, my brain was just smacking the inside of my
Yeah.
skull. And this guy had been running track days, not running, doing track days for years.
It's crazy.
Insane.
I had a guy with a E36 M3 with the turbo on it, and he passed me on the way to the track. I mean, and you know me, I don't drive slow, but I don't know. I'm probably doing 80, 85 on the B line, which is still not faster than you should be going. This M3 went by me, shooting flames, shifting gears. Turns out he was my student.
Imagine.
And first thing I asked, we started asking about the car. What is the car? What mods does it have? Like, oh, does this have an adjustable boost gauge? Yeah. Great. Let's turn the boost all the way down. Didn't see that coming. I don't know if the tune. I'm like, if it's not safe to drive on the track, it's only safe to drive at full boost. Oh, we should probably go home then. But yeah, that was. I mean, sometimes you can see the problem before it happens,
And that's the whole idea behind having that conversation.
If you can't drive the track slow, I assure you can't drive it fast. Come out, let's drive the track. We're going to go in low boost. Do everything great. We'll give you more boost. But and he wound up. He understood. By the end of the weekend, we were probably full boost, and
So he turned out to be a decent student.
yeah. But I mean, your first day at the track, you have these delusions of grandeur of how great of a driver you are. You're what we call unconscious incompetent. You don't know what you don't know.
Right.
Then your first session, you're conscious incompetent. You now know what you don't know. Now you need to learn. Now you need to know it, but not really be good at it before you can get to what we call unconscious competent. It's
Right, you just do it as second
yeah.
nature.
It's muscle memory.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
By the way, have you two ever raced against each
No.
other?
no.
Because you guys
when you had the E30, maybe in SCCA,
or
maybe.
PBOC?
maybe
Maybe SCCA or PBOC.
you had the
but-
yellow E30, right?
Yeah, I had that yellow
Yeah.
E30 that was bone stock. It
You know
was.
what?
It did
I
not
think
have
we
a
did.
2.8 stroker in it.
When I first had the first TLM car was an E36 325
Oh, okay.
that we call Plan B. First we call it Papi Chulo. Now it's Plan B, and then it became Plan B Chulo. The car's still in the stable. It is actually the shop car, the crew car. Trish drives it more than anybody else, and I think against that car, I think you did come to a FARA race, and we had that car. Now that I think about
yeah,
it, yes.
yeah. No, I had that car at a FARA. You know what? If I had that car at a FARA race, it was probably one of the Ukrainians driving it.
I think you had a customer. Yes, you did have a customer. It was early times, 2010.
If it hit
12.
an apex, it was not them. But I love that car. To this day, I own that car longer than any other car I've ever owned. I think I owned that thing for 12 years.
I love E30s.
It's a wonderful car, and that car through 11 at Homestead. The car is just in a full drift, and it's just it's so wonderful to drive that car. I miss the older, slower cars. The cars now have kind of become video games.
Oh yes, big time.
And I drove that. Is it G80 M3 Comp this weekend?
Right.
I mean, it's a video game. It is an absolute weapon of a car.
Yeah.
But honestly, I'd rather go 6-7 seconds a lap slower in an old E30 and do the dance and have that the way that car talks to you. It's so romantic in the older cars.
There's something to be said about vintage racing now.
Yeah.
And the older I get, the more nostalgic I get. I mean, I have an 88 Carrera that I love driving almost every day because it brings me back to that time in which it was a dream car.
Right.
I had it as a poster as a child in my house, in my room, and now I get to drive it. And that car gets more people taking pictures of it and thumbs up than anything else. Same with the E30 convertible.
Yeah, I had the same thing when I had the E30.
Love that car. And it gives you back that feeling. There is nothing, no ABS, no traction control, no Apple Play, nothing. It is just the sound. And you can ask me, when is the last time I turned the radio in any of those cars on? Never.
Yeah.
I love, and it could be, I could drive the car to Sebring for 3 hours. I love hearing the engine just constantly.
I have the same thing with my Consulier. It's, you know,
Oh, that's right. You have one of those.
Yeah, no
You still
power.
have it?
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, that car will be my kid's problem. It's, you know, I had the picture of it on my wall as a kid.
I guarantee you, everybody out there has no idea what a Consulier is.
We're going to put a picture.
Yeah, you're
gonna
going to have to put a
Yes.
picture up. Yeah, there's only 20 something of them on the street, and
You know, I remember going to that $100,000 challenge at
Yes.
Sebring, where Shane Lewis was the Consulier driver, and there was a whole bunch of other people, and like they did a contest. Anybody that can beat the pro driver in the Consulier around the
the
Sebring short track
course. Yep.
would win $100,000. And I was there, and I was just autocrossing. I was not road racing yet, and to me, Shane at that point was a god. And I was there for that day, and of course, nobody beat it.
No,
was
the
fantastic.
F40 left. The F40 never even put tires on the track.
And there was a 911 that got disqualified because they put race tires on.
That
And it
was
was supposed
that
to
was
be
a
on
roof
DOT
Yellowbird.
tires.
That was
Yes.
a roof CTR.
Yes. You were there too.
No, I've got
Oh.
pictures from it.
I was there for that event.
But I actually worked there as a kid. I was sweeping the floors and pulling the cars from the molds. I mean, the entire body of that car is 250 pounds.
It's pretty incredible.
Yeah, but that car on street tires ran Sebring short course in 1:20 in 1990.
Right.
I mean, it
was a supercar.
It's still a significant time.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to a quick segment. I want to get input from both of you.
Nothing's quick with us.
Let's try to make it quick because we're running out of time. Best and worst cars that you've driven on the track, or you've been a passenger in.
I'm gonna say one of the cars that that comes to my mind the most, like the most memorable. I got to drive a very modified roof turbo 930, and I mean this thing shot like 8-10 foot flames out the back of it, and I remember coming into Sebring in a 1980s car with the 3-point harness at 160 miles an hour going, what the heck am I doing?
Yeah.
But just the way that car feels, you can feel the torsion bars tighten up going through 16. It's cool.
Worst car.
As far as worst, there is no worst. And if I'm driving on a racetrack, I'm having a good time. I don't care how bad the car is. But I would say driving like a 60-something Mustang GT350H, I think it'd be, like the old Hertz rental car.
Right.
It was such a handful, but it was still fun. You drive the car that you're in. Got my license in a Toyota Starlet that had 60-something horsepower. So, I mean, my goal is to meet whoever owns the car's time is. And
Sure. You make the most of it.
Yeah. I mean, being on the track is a good time, regardless of how good or bad the car is.
That's pretty amazing that you still feel that way after so many years.
Yeah.
David,
The
what
best car.
and worst?
Well, the best cars are the new Cup cars, the new Porsche Cup cars. The 992 is an amazing machine, but Lobster Mac, my previous, the 991.2, that car was special. I mean, that car had all the ride bells and all the ride whistles. We won a lot of races. The car was good. People know it. People call me and ask me, about Lobster Mac, and they call my cars by name when they call me. And one of the funniest thing is we sold the sister car, and somebody, the new owner, showed a video, and it was me and the car they bought fighting at Road Atlanta, and he showed it to his friend and says, "Look, this is the car I bought." And he looked at it, and it was looking out the window to my car, Lobster Mac. And the guy goes to him, "You bought Lobster Mac?" And he's like, no, the other car. oh, yeah, that's nice too. So yeah, Lobster Mac, hands down, best race car I've ever had so far. The 992 is getting there. I just need to, wrestle with it a little bit more. And I was gonna say the worst car I ever drove was an Isuzu iMark that was built for ITC. Alfonso Ruiz, a very good friend of ours, another crazy Peruvian. But I gotta tell you, that car was fun. It was a POS. I mean, it stained my suit with oil. It had it was used as a pickup truck. It was horrible. It didn't handle, it didn't accelerate, it didn't do anything right. But man, it was fun.
It makes you hit your marks every single time.
We were doing everything we possibly could to make it go fast, and we won. We won ITC in that car many times at Moroso, PBIR. So yeah,
this is like a box of a car, right? I think that's what
it's
it looks
horrible.
like.
It's the most horrible thing you ever had in your life, and it was so much fun. I don't think I echo Brian. I don't. Any car, like they say, a bad day at the track is better than a good day at the office.
Sure.
I love being at the racetrack. So
Do you remember Peter Shadowin's
Of
5
course.
Series?
Yes.
The E28 5 Series?
Yes.
I knew that car as a street car, and I got a ride in that car as a street car. And he let me take it to the track and race it one weekend. That may have to go down as my favorite car. To go out and drive a 5 Series and chase down E36 lightweights, and that was a cool car.
It goes back to what we said. BMW make great track cars.
Yeah, they do. Speaking of not BMW, you're the president of PCA Gulfstream chapter. What does that role entail? And what have been some of the most rewarding parts of leading the chapter?
Well, I mean, the rewarding part's easy. We do our focus, our region's focus is charitable events and charitable giving. There's so many other clubs that do track events. I think we've let Suncoast region, they do a great track event. Gold Coast region does a great track event. If we want to be involved with that, we can go and volunteer. We can help out. But Gulfstream Goodwill Industries is, a fantastic organization. We do an event with them every year. And being involved in that, they have a homeless shelter. They, I think like 1,500 people a year go through there. They're getting meals. They're getting a shower. It's a great organization. And this one event that we do brought in $200,000 for them this year.
Wow!
And we're
Nice.
we're already planning our 2026 event. And we get together once a month. What can we do better? I think if I get my way, as much as I'm a BMW Porsche guy, everybody knows that, but I like to think that I'm a car guy's car guy. And I'm going to try to get the event this year to be multi-mark. When I say multi-mark, anything that I think is cool, I want there.
Not in Isuzu.
Not an Isuzu, but This event, it is a car event, where, we have the car as the jewelry of the event, but at the end of the day, it's a charity event. And I mean, why are we not having Lamborghinis there? Why are we not having McLarens there? Why are we not having Bugattis there? If this is what's going to help raise money for our community, I think that's my focus this year,
Right.
is getting as many amazing cars, getting some really good speakers there. We had Derek Bell there last year. That was a great hit. So we'll see what we can pull out for the years to come.
Right.
And I mean, that's easily the highlight of it. I mean, there's a lot that goes into running the club. We are a national organization. We have to, follow the corporate attorneys and the rules. I mean, I've told you about some of my frustrations with
Yes, you
dealing,
have.
But at the end of the day, we've got 1,000 members in our region. The area you live in, the Gold Coast, that's Ian Gerarda. He's president there. He's got 3,500 members, and that's you're in that.
Well, you know what,
region.
Brian? I'm gonna put it out there. If you're gonna do something with charity, you're gonna open it up to other marks. I would love for FARA to invite you guys to come and do the event with us.
We need to talk about that and figure out how we can make a joint event. That's
open
something
to
we will talk about off the racing line.
I'm open to suggestions.
Well, that was actually going to be my second point. Is I think it's fantastic what you're doing as far as charity and things like that. David's and my focus is to bring in those PCA members, bring them into the FARA atmosphere and let them see the party that we put on. So if there's a way for us to do that, we'd be very happy to talk about that.
That would be amazing.
All right, guys. Looking at the time, and it looks like we are just about out of time. So I appreciate you guys being here. Brian, thank you. David, thank you for being here. And everybody, remember, everything interesting happens off the racing line. See you next time.
Hard road out from these stripes. The road from dreamer to driver ain't always straight. Kept my head down, fueled by faith. I lost some time, but found my name.